So my name is Agnieszka Makles. I'm a MAFLT student at Michigan State University, and I am a Polish teacher of adults. And my presentation is called Online Authentic Materials for Supplementing L2 Textbooks, Lectals, and Beyond. So a little outline. In this presentation, I will talk about the following. First, the lack of materials for lectals based on my own experience with Polish. Then authentic materials and how I decided to supplement my teaching with them. I also want to hear from you on your thoughts here. Next, how technology supports me. Then I will share an example of an authentic materials I use in my daily teaching, the children's show Peppa Pig, and some examples that I prepared for you today. Then we will talk about teaching ideas for these types of materials, and I will ask for your input over here as well. And finally, I will share with you what my students think about Peppa in their learning. So let's start with lectals. Lectal classroom can be characterized as low enrollment classroom, and because of that, there is diminished interest in developing textbooks. For Polish, I struggle with the small number of textbooks on the market and their supporting materials. And currently there is actually two major textbooks, but you have to heavily supplement them. And one is old and outdated, and the newer one really begs for authentic materials. They also lack in quality. They contain some vocabulary that is out of use or is used very rarely, and it's really odd. And certain chapters contain obscure themes with texts, vocabulary that students cannot relate to and will really, really rarely use in their target language. The Polish textbooks I use generally don't contain authentic text or cultural materials, and the resulting choice of vocabulary in the inauthentic text is far away from the reality. So finally, teachers are often willing to share their teaching materials with me, but too often they are not shareable across languages. So let's take a look at these two pictures from Hura po Polsku, the older textbook on the market. And the book contains pictures and tries to be entertaining, but the picture drawing quality is questionable. So students often comment that they have no idea what is in the picture. I mean, you can see over here that a t-shirt is a t-shirt and so on, but there are really odd pictures over there. And in the second picture, materials in this book are outdated, especially the chapter about technology, and you can see this old little thing over here, whatever it's called in English. So outdated materials. Two more excerpts. Here, the first excerpt is from a newer Polish textbook, Krok po kroku, that is much more colorful. Maybe you cannot see on this black and white picture, but it's clearer to use, but still has problems. And for example, it sneaks in some problematic cultural essentialism. And in the picture, you can see a textbook character, he's called Javier from Argentina. And he's presented as a stereotypical womanizer in this textbook. And I believe that it is very harmful to project Javier in this way, as this can lead to thinking that this is how all Argentinian men are. And the second is an excerpt from my Russian textbook, because currently I learn Russian, that is not very visually appealing, and furthermore, it constantly revolves around the same topic and vocabulary. So it's, in general, it's multimodally weak. So how did I approach this problem? Well, I started heavily supplementing these textbooks with additional materials. And of course, nowadays we can choose any materials we found out there, but how to choose among others? Well, many scholars suggest authentic materials. And authentic materials are texts that are not simplified for L2 learners. And we had that in a break room with Bruna. We were approaching that definition. And they are written for native speakers. Scholars believe these are good for language learning for a number of reasons. Well, first, authentic materials give learners the opportunity to interact with real language. Second, as Carrera et al. 2019 suggests, authentic input produces higher quality output. The more complex the text you read, the better language you will produce. But what does this specifically mean? Well, Crossley and McManara found in 2016 study of reading assessment that authentic materials may be harder than simplified ones to basically understand. However, they are better for working with, and you can learn more from them. So guys, I want to pause for a second, and I hope I can see some answers in a chat room for my question: what authentic materials do you use in your teaching? And I will try to read if I can see that, or maybe somebody can actually read them out loud for me. All right, audio, I think that's from the, okay, websites, YouTube, Twitter, some songs, artwork, short articles, okay, YouTube again, memes, audiolingua, all right, infographics, anything else? Poems, awesome, I love poems. Excerpts from literature, yep, I did a little Prince recently in my homework with Dr. Paul. All right, kids, new segments, yes, very nice. Instagram posts, yes. One more idea? Relatives in FaceTime, fantastic. Tweets, yep, very good. All right, thank you so much for your input, guys. Okay, so sorry. Okay, let me move to technology point over here. So how do we find really all these awesome authentic materials that you were guys sharing a second ago with me? Well, clearly in the Web 2.0 era, we have access to just about everything, almost. Well, we especially have access to multimodal materials, that is materials containing audio, video, and text that all scaffold each other. YouTube is especially helpful here. It provides an almost infinite amount of materials to watch. And when watching, students and teachers also have an opportunity to pause, replay, or rewatch multiple times. Often subtitles are offered as well. However, for lictals, it's still not as easy to find materials as for other languages. And these are even more important for lictals given the problem with textbooks. The problem I discussed earlier. And I know this problem from my own experience. Other teachers often share materials with me and they do not realize that these materials do not exist for Polish and not likely for other lictals. So I'm going to offer you one solution to this problem, an example of an authentic material which is translated into 40 languages and it broadcast in over 180 countries. It provides a huge amount of authentic materials for teachers of students from for all language for all groups. This material is the British children's show called Peppa Pig. So to show you a little bit how international it is, I'm going to start by playing two intros. First one will be for with Czech language, and the second one will be with Mandarin.
Já jsem prasátko Peppa. Tohle je můj bratříček Tom a moje maminka. A tohle je můj tatínek. 我是佩佩猪，这是我弟弟乔治，这是妈妈猪，这是爸爸猪。
Okay, so what does Peppa Pig do specifically? Well, it provides interesting topics about almost everything, especially for beginners: birthday, the dentist visit, shopping, spring, broken car, traveling abroad, new baby. It provides real-life themes like recycling, growing your own food, fear of the dentist, composting, wind, electricity. The episodes are super short, 5 minutes, so everyone can find the time to watch it at home or incorporate it into the classroom. It is also easy for teachers just to skim for the 5 minutes to find what do we need for the lesson because of the episode's length. It provides repetitive language and it's not simplified, but it is very simple. And an appropriate speech speed for beginners and beyond is also provided. So let's look at some examples. Okay, so this is a shopping example. And this is a family trip to the grocery store. The episode can offer, for example, the verb to like in use. It provides new vocabulary for food items that are supported by pictures. It features counting, which can be an introducing to numbers or reviewing numbers. And finally, let's explore the vocabulary of repetition of the word pasta, which in Polish is makaron.
Tety! Makaron! Mamo, tu jest makaron.
Dobrze, Peppo. Włóżmy makaron do wózka.
Tak, mamo. Makaron! George, to jest makaron. Makaron.
Okay, so that was about macaron. Let's move to another example. This second example shows how Peppa touches an important topic of today's world problem, like environmentalism, windmill energy or electric cars. And in this episode, students learn about recycling, names of household items and colors. So let's watch what Peppa recycles.
Czerwone pudełko jest na papier, niebieskie na puszki, a zielone na butelki.
Okay, and another example is about painting, and this is a great episode to show you how the show provides verbal visual scaffolding. When Daddy Pigs asks the children what color is the sky, he looks at the sky, so the children are looking as well. So you will see that in a second. Pay attention to that, and this gives viewer a clue of the world of the word they might not know. And the same happens with the word tree. So when he says the word that he's going to paint the tree shows up in the background. So let's take a look.
Jaki kolor najpierw weźmiemy?
Poproszę czerwony.
Dlaczego akurat czerwony?
Czerwony to mój ulubiony kolor.
Najpierw powinniśmy namalować niebo. Powiedz mi, jaki ma kolor?
Wiadomo, niebieski.
Proszę bardzo. Zaczynamy od niebieskiego. Teraz kolej na drzewo. Liście są zielone.
Ale tu nie ma zielonego.
Nie szkodzi. Jeśli weźmiemy niebieską farbę i trochę żółtej, wyjdzie nam zielony.
Kolory niebieski i żółty dają zielony.
O!
Jakie piękne zielone liście. Tu namaluj.
Okay, also in this episode, they're explored, besides colors, gender agreement, questions what color is something, and what is your favorite color. And the last one example I prepared for you today, but no video due to the time restrictions, is Peppa goes to the dentist, and this helps with showing the genitive case, the imperative, and of course a real situation that we all know when we travel and we have a tooth problem. What do we do then? So here's my question for you. How could you use Peppa in your teaching? And again, you have some moment to answer that in the chat, and I will read this out loud. Oh, I'm sorry. It seems like it's not developmentally appropriate for teens and adults, but the topic would be really work, okay? Actually, I use it for adults. I think children might not like it as much as the adults, and you would be surprised what you can do with that. I notice in Czech and Polish there's a lot of diminutives. Exactly. And that's what my husband talks about, the diminutive a lot, that he cannot watch Polish movies, but he can watch Peppa the Pig, because actually in Peppa there is not as much diminutive.
Really?
Yes.
But like doing my braciszek, and it's not my brother, it's my braciszek, my little brother, you know, it's the, you know, so as long as they know the difference, like that they're not hearing the what might be in the dictionary for brother, but they are hearing how a child might talk about their actual brother.
Absolutely. But it's way easier than watching actually anything else. And I tested on my husband a few excerpts from the different sources and movies, and he was so frustrated. He said, I cannot watch it. It's just too much diminutive. They could be shown as lesson openers, okay? I love that it touches on real life situations. Short clips can be incorporated many themes that you are focusing on examples of conversation focused vocabulary. I think the cartoons take them back to childhood, okay? It's a good stress and comic relief, okay? All right, anything else? All right, so maybe I will tell you how I use it then, okay? And we can come back to this conversation later. Oops. Okay, well, I use it, for example, for freeze framing and predictions. So since they're only 5 minutes in the classroom, I can just show them this for a minute or two, and then my students are telling me the rest, what can happen. I use for scaffolding, so for recalling and providing background knowledge and vocabulary. I use it as a listening activity without video for a little bit more advanced students. Then I can also show them this again with the video. I use it as a narration activity without sound, so they just watch the video and they can narrate by themselves. My students are loving storytelling activities. So sometimes I will show them one episode and 2.5 minutes for one student and 2.5 minutes for the other students, and they have to communicate and they have to put the whole show together. Yeah, sometimes we use subtitles for reading also for some episodes and languages. It's a very big luxury for Polish language to find videos with subtitles. I use it also for reproduction activities, so students can act out scenes, and only in those examples you can only see Daddy the pig, Mommy, and the children. But there's so many characters in there that you can really choose from and do the scenes. Role playing, I also use as a fun fiction. So my students are writing their own episodes or dialogues, and also as a homework I give the Peppa episodes, starting from the beginners, like really you'll be surprised what they can pull it out of it, and they're journaling about Peppa in Polish, whatever the words can use, you know, from the first classes. So that's what I do with them. All right, so let's finally, before I conclude with a few limitations of Peppa, I want to share some of my students' views of the show as materials for language learning. I conducted a small questionnaire study and pulled out some of the most interesting comments. Well, thank God for Peppa. If you don't understand a word, it is easy to learn by watching the video and learning from context clues. I like the language, the variety, and again, how friendly and joyful they are. The first thing that comes to mind is the snorting noise they make. Love the hidden humor. You'll be surprised that sometimes there is a really hidden humor for adults if you don't watch Peppa. And also a comment, it's not interactive and it's for kids, so it has its limits. The final comment is a good transition to the final slide about the limitations. So lack of subtitles. My students are really complaining there is no subtitles. Sometimes you can turn on captions on YouTube, but captions are not accurate with the spoken language. So there are also, of course, 40 languages only. It could be more than those 40 languages, although most of those languages that are taught in the United States are represented. Another problem is that it's monocultural. It comes from England. It presents English phenomena, for example, holidays. So you can see an example of this above, where George and his friends, they are sad about not finding Easter eggs. And obviously many languages, cultures do not have Easter egg hunt, so it's Polish. But nowadays the internet is so big around the world. Imagine or not, this is the second year my family was doing Easter egg hunts in their backyard. So the culture is spreading. Finally, it is not secret that this is for children. The themes are therefore restricted to children themes, though I promise you there is often hidden humor for adults. I love it. And I do not speak other languages than Russian and Polish. Coming back to the diminutive problem, I cannot say how other languages are preparing those episodes, but in Polish, I do not have any problems with it. So the same in Russian. I hope you like it. Thank you so much for your attention today.
Dziękuję.
Dziękuję.
Thank you. That was super interesting.
Thank you.
And Peppa does exist for German.
It does.
Sorry, my video's been off because I'm eating, sorry. But I didn't know what to expect going into, like, knowing you were going to talk about Peppa the Pig, and I just had no anticipation that it would be providing so many sort of realistic contexts for how language is used, and that it is aimed at children, but that it's like the recycling thing. Like, you can completely use that as a theme. I'm just thinking of ways that you could use this as sort of a backbone. And do you kind of use it that way? Like you kind of use it as a backbone for a class as topics? And
yeah, I use it as the topics. I cover sometimes. I still have a textbook as a chapter by chapter, but I provide a lot of different materials. And if there is something about recycling or computer at work problem, which Mommy the Pig has it, I use it. And sometimes I tell them to watch it at home, and they have to come prepared to the classroom. And all my students are journaling. So either they reproduce what they were watching about in their own language, how they view it, and what words they can use it, but they do approach all those problems. And Peppa is actually signed up until 2027, whatever the contract they have. And I've noticed that in 2021 they use a lot of environmental problems. They touch a lot of environmental problems, including electric cars, windmills. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, thanks, Agnieszka. That was really well done. I really liked your presentation. Have you found, I wanted to know, I guess, a little bit more about your context. You said that you teach a little bit differently than we do teaching Polish. And so what's your age range of students that you teach?
Only adults.
Only adults. Okay, and obviously they have really positive reactions to Peppa the Pig. And I find that interesting because I didn't really even think about incorporating cartoons into my lessons, but I have one theme that I do on like movies and TV shows. And I showed a clip of a cartoon called Pocoyo, and my students were thrilled. They were like, it brought them back to childhood. They were so excited to see it. They could actually understand a lot of what was being said because they were at the Spanish 3 level. So it was really interesting to see that. And so now I'm thinking maybe there's so many other options with this. So thank you for sharing that.
No, of course. And you know what? I search myself. I'm always, I'm like, oh, Peppa, what people will think, it's for children. But I always come back to it because you know what? First, very reliable episodes. They're always on YouTube. You can find it super fast. You just write Peppa the Pig, Russian, Polish, and the title you want to find, like, a mess or something. And they really pop out really quickly. So it's a super time-saving source. And then you can really quickly skim it. And I push for electric car, but I watched the episode 5 minutes. And I watch it in Russian, so I learn at the same time, right? I don't have to watch them in Polish, so I benefit from that. And I'm like, nah, this one wasn't as good, so let me just, check something different. I even do it driving to work. I don't watch them though. I just listen to them when I drive.
Yeah, I'd say in addition, it offers a little bit of variety in your lesson. Instead of speaking all the time or doing this, showing those little video clips, I think gives a nice little brain break, but they're also still kind of learning and getting more authentic input. So
yeah, and the first quote I did a questionnaire on Google, and I remember the student, we were talking about the mess around the room, like how people's houses look, and he couldn't just remember, like, his house is so messy, and he was like, bałagan, thank God for Peppa. Because they watched some time ago about the mess around the house, and the kids didn't want it to clean up. So I was like, oh my gosh, it works. It's even if they get some weird words, but as Dr. Lanier said, yes, a diminutive is a huge problem in the Slavic languages. And imagine there's like one word and you can say it in a the most craziest way, and you can even make up those words by yourself when you speak.
But the takeaway that I have from this whole thing is that you don't have to just use Peppa the Pig. There are I'm sure for every language, certain TV shows or certain comic shows. I have one that I grew up with being raised in Germany called Sendung mit der Maus. It's a little mouse and everything revolves around the mouse, and they do actually not just the comic side, they do Lach- und Sachgeschichten, which then shows the environmental and how to recycle. And I use that in my classroom all the time. So I'm sure that for Spanish or for French, this is out there. And the internet is just going to give us that possibility to go and search for something like that and be able to include it.
Yeah, and
thank you for your presentation. Very interesting.
Thank you. I voted for Peppa as well because, as I said, it's across the languages. So as you, Petra, you're the department of one, the program, of one, not department. And if somebody comes, is like, hey, the Moomins, the Scandinavian or little gummies. I don't remember the English version of the title, but they do not exist in other languages. So even if somebody gives you the idea, you cannot use it. You have to waste more time to search for it. The same, I had a wonderful technology class with Dr. Paul, and guys were pulling so many interesting ideas. I could not use it, some of them at all, because even the most famous games, we just use them in English in Poland. Well, thank you so much for your attention.